So I'd have to travel quite a bit to get, to even audition. I mean, I would drive 2 hours to go to an audition, and that's just when you audition, it's 95% chance you're not going to get the job.
This is the Gold Medal Mindset, where we bring you all things winning in business, sport, and life. I'm Dr. Jason Richardson, pro BMX world champion and Pan Am Games gold medalist. Now I'm a professional speaker, author, and winning mindset coach. Thanks for joining in. Get ready to mine for gold as we challenge your perception to change your results.
It's life, man.
That's life, man. And there you have it. That's probably the best looking voice we've had on the show thus far. People, welcome to the Gold Medal Mindset. Today, I am super excited, as I always say, because I am super excited to have a guest. His name is Matt Pohlkamp. We met each other back in the day when I was racing bicycles as a pro BMXer, traveling, gallivanting around the world. And this guy was there and often on the gate, lined up right next to me, in front of me, or behind me, just depending on how the cookie crumbled. That said, there's silver linings everywhere. That's a cliche, but I do believe there's excellence everywhere, and this is why this guy is on the show. He has gone from a successful professional racing career, professional athletic career, and now he is a professional working actor. He is not bartending. He is not waitering. He is actually acting and getting paid to do it. His voice and or face may be familiar. I'll let him do that talking. But without further ado, this is Mr. Matt Pohlkamp. Matt, how you doing? Thanks for being on the show.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Jay Rich. Appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. So you're a dude from Ohio. And you are now in Santa Monica, or will we just say LA?
Yeah, I'm in Santa Monica. Yeah.
Santa Monica. So what brought you out? Because I don't think you moved out to necessarily get in the business. So what brought you out from Ohio, I guess the Cincinnati area, to LA?
Basically the weather, I spent, my whole elite career pretty much training in Ohio, which is definitely not, the ideal place as far as, the cold winters and things like that. But it just kind of wore on me. And towards the tail end of my, my elite career, I did move out to LA because I started dabbling in the acting a little bit back in Ohio. And my wife and I at the time were just like, let's get out of here. She's a physical therapist and was able to move and do temporary work throughout the country. So we're like, let's just try LA and see how it goes. And it stuck.
That's right. So, it's coming back to me now. It's coming back to me because you were racing, and then I remember us having a few conversations about modeling jobs here or there and how kind of funny it was because we were both kind of dabbling. But I remember you were like, you were in Ohio, and I'm like, dude, how hard is it to model or do what you're doing there? Because you had to go to Chicago quite a bit. And
yeah. Procter and Gamble is in Cincinnati. So there was, a few, they have a lot of their brands that they have, in P&G. So and they did a lot of production in Cincinnati. So there were some things available, but they were pretty far, few in between. And then, Chicago and Indianapolis and just kind of, like Lexington. So I'd have to travel quite a bit to get, to even audition. I mean, I would drive 2 hours to go to an audition, and that's just when you audition, it's 95% chance you're not going to get the job. So I was definitely putting in the road,
you were putting in the hours. That's why you switched from that. Yeah. Cause you were driving a 5 Series Beamer, and then like I saw you a couple years later and you had a Honda. You said, I need to get better gas mileage.
I had both. So,
oh, look at you.
Yeah. Cause I took the Beamer lease over from Steve Bundeck. He had like 1.5 years left on that thing and had like 2,000 miles on it.
Oh, nice. Good deal.
So I was like, why not? Life's too short. I'll just, treat myself to something nice for, 1.5 years. Nice.
So, okay. I like that you said life's too short. So
it really is. Yeah.
Isn't it? Even though we look back and it's like, I always say the journey is long and it'll be over before you know it.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. So, all right. What I have a list of questions here.
Okay.
And I'm like waving the paper in front of the microphone to prove to the listening public that but I have a bunch of stuff. Like I have acting questions, I have sport questions, I mean cuz so here's the funny part. You were a successful bike racer. I've seen you win a motorcycle. I've seen you win thousands and thousands of dollars at one event. You rode for one of the biggest companies, Schwinn Bicycles. I mean, and honestly, like everyone knows what Schwinn is. I mean, it's not like just some obscure
Hmm.
brand. I mean, that's like the American brand, um, one of them for sure. So,
Yeah.
and even currently, I mean, you won a world championship. I think it was in Denmark. You were in Denmark, and it was a world
Yeah.
champion, a Vet Pro Masters class world championship. What year was that?
That was 2011. That was 6 years
That was
ago.
6 years ago. Oh my gosh! But my
It was
point is,
6 years ago. Yeah.
but essentially, you know, using air quotes, retired from racing for a living, and you know, you're basically moonlighting, which is crazy that
Hmm.
you're an actor and you probably chose one of the more um, risky sports to keep doing.
I
Um,
know. Yeah.
but but we won't tell the underwriters about that. So I just have a lot of stuff. So let's just I'm gonna jump right in and I'm just gonna go off of what I know about you or what I at least perceive. Like you've and because we weren't really like buddies when we raced each other, and it wasn't because we didn't like or respect each other. Just you know our kind of like ships in the night kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I observed you to be a pretty private dude, like kind of quiet, kind of reserved. Obviously, you're a fierce competitor. You've cut me off a few times. Um,
Vice versa.
no, okay, fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. But but being from Cincinnati, right? You said the weather warned you. Most of the pro athletes, especially in our sport, were you know they'd moved to California, maybe they were in Florida, or if they lived somewhere else, they would at least train somewhere warm. But you never really did that the bulk of your career.
No.
So and but you maintained a high level. So obviously there's a mindset piece to that. But my question is, when did you realize that your talent wasn't enough?
As far as
As far
so,
as
I had to.
probably just as far as competition, I'm going out on a limb here and saying that you probably realized that during your racing days, you know, you were probably a taller kid, a stronger kid, a bigger kid, a whatever kid. But you know, when you turn professional, you know, it can only take you so far. And given that you were somewhat disadvantaged, at least bound by weather or snow or ice or rain. So I guess
Mhm.
for you, like, when did it click for you that maybe you know my God given talents are only going to take me so far?
I don't know. I don't think it really. I think I was always. I grew up, swimming competitively since I was five. I come from
I
like a
forgot about
swimming
that.
athletic
That's
family.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I grew up with that. You know, my dad was a captain in the military in the army. And just brothers were all. You know, my brothers were athletic, and my sisters. And I just basically that's just what we did. It's like even though we all had talent in our whatever fields we had, we always we worked hard. We were hard workers. And so I never thought that I could get away with just talent. Because I was always, I mean, I was looking at you guys, looking up to you guys when I hadn't turned pro yet. And I was in Ohio when I was, you know, looking up to all these guys in California and the magazines and all that. And that made me work harder. So I never really, just as answering your question, I never strictly relied on only talent. It was
Nah.
always work hard. If anything, it was I was overtraining. Just getting too intense. Too intense and overtraining, and that probably worked against me a little bit too. So I never relied strictly on my skills or talent on a bicycle. If that answers your question.
That does answer my question. And there you go,
Okay.
people, because so you know, belief systems. And so in my head, right, I had this belief system that, like, you're from the East Coast and you were good because you happened to be good. And then you became better after you realized. But I totally forgot about the swimming thing. And I didn't even
Yeah.
take into account. um, that backstory. I'm glad I asked the question because thank you. Expanded my see. Even I get caught up in my own BS. But no, that's cool. So it was just kind of a family work ethic, and you said the word intense. So were you like that when you were swimming?
Um, swimming was kind of actually, if we look at it, I think swimming, I would rely on my talent. But yeah, it's interesting. It's so interesting because, I started at a young age and then I played a lot of sports and then I found BMX racing and then that was my passion. And that's all I
Ah,
thought about. So basically, to up my intensity in swimming, I think, okay, this is my training for BMX racing. So I'm going to work hard in swimming, you know, to hopefully it'll transfer over to my BMX racing, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, if you really, you know what I mean? As
no,
far as the actual
it
physical
does
training,
it does make
the mindset for
sense.
sure.
Yeah, no, it does make sense, and that was a way for you to get kind of up for your swimming meets or swimming events. So when did you let swimming
Exactly.
go?
I let swimming go. I was a senior in high school.
Wow.
Um, I'd had some success, at the amateur level in racing at that point. I was like 17. I think I made it to my senior year in high school. I made it to I think like a state meet or a regional meet, which is a huge deal.
Yes, it is.
Back then. And I was at a regional BMX race like 2 weeks or 3 weeks before I was supposed to do the swimming event, and I broke my leg
Oops.
at at the BMX race, so I couldn't go to swim at the whatever meet it was, and that's pretty much that was it. That was the end of my swimming career for the most part.
Got it. So so you couldn't go to that meet. Were you being um
And if I would have done well at the swimming meet,
that's
would I have
one
gone off in that direction?
that's the
You
question.
know,
Yeah.
but I was supposed to be with you guys, elbow to elbow on the BMX track,
Yeah,
and
and
that's where I wanted to
you
be.
said that was your passion, and I believe I know you raced passionately. So when did the when did you kind of say, all right, this is enough? Well, tell me about the transition from racing, from going from professional racer guy, bike racer guy to actor, right? Because you it wasn't like because you got I have I got my Hanes socks and I saw you on the packaging, but when so you went from like print and doing some catalog stuff and the modeling bit and you're acting, and I don't mean just commercial work. I mean we're talking movies and like major productions that people are pouring millions of dollars into. So and you're good. It's not like you're just spitting out the lines.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, dude, you're bringing it. That's I love it. But so you have the skills, but tell me about that transition from dabbling in this modeling thing, and then
Yeah.
out of racing, and then like you're living in LA and like reading scripts and prepare. I don't know what it is, but that
Yeah,
life.
it's crazy, man. I had growing up, I had no interest whatsoever. I mean, even in my 20s, early to mid 20s, I had no interest whatsoever in acting. I had nothing, no idea what it was about. And basically, it was kind of I felt it was like I looked at it kind of lame, like all theater and all this stuff.
Hmm.
But I got to a point where my racing and it I don't know. I'm sure other people can relate to this, but I was so into it. I was in Ohio. My life was training and racing. 24/7. Everything to the amount of hours I slept a night, to what I ate, to my mood, to everything was about BMX racing. I was just so isolated and
Hmm.
so unbalanced. And it got to a point where I almost thought, like kind of going a little bit, little crazy.
Right.
It's hard to explain, but and also when you're professional, a professional BMX racer, we train in the morning and then we train at night.
Right.
Typically that's a standard day. So you have that whole day in between, and you can kind of get bored. You know,
Yeah.
so you start overthinking things a lot. You think too much, and for me, just bad things crept into my mind, like getting hurt, getting injured, having a career-ending injury, which is crazy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it really, really messed with me mentally. I haven't really talked about this to anybody, but my wife Jessica at the time, God love her. She was a savior for me. She, you know, looked up all these different kinds of um, exercises for your mind to do, and just to kind of calm the mind down, and like meditation
Mm-hmm.
and all of that, just to get this fear out of me.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was crazy. It was crazy. But anyway, so I needed, long story short, my life was completely unbalanced. And I needed something else in my life to balance it out, something non-physical, because we have to, physical recovery and all that. So
Right.
somebody recommended take an acting class. I was like, just, yeah, right. That's funny. That's really funny. No way. And then I went, a couple months later or whatever, and I was scared to death because, like you said earlier, I am kind of a reserved, private person. And to go up in front of people and, put your balls, pardon my French, on the table like that,
On the chopping
uh,
block.
on the chopping block, man. I mean, you're just exposed up there, and that's my fear. Some people fear, public speaking, some people fear that more than death.
Mm-hmm.
And that's me. That was me. So it was rough at first, but I was like, very uncomfortable, and I dreaded each week when I went every Thursday night, I think it was. And, but I kept going, and then I kept getting, more comfortable and started to like it, started to really kind of get lost in these stories, and I hadn't read, since college. I hadn't, I read magazines, but then now I'm starting to read like these plays and these scenes and these stories and stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is like a whole new world, new chapter for me. And I think it really helped. I mean, it got me balanced for the most part, and I developed a passion for it, and here I am. So
Nice. Well, you know what I like to think? I think it's kind of like it's hard to take something away from somebody without giving them something else. And usually that's like a thing when you talk about people who are addicted to something. Which is why if you're outside of an AA meeting, or if you ever see one, it's like, people smoke and drink coffee. Well, that's probably because they're not doing heroin and drinking alcohol anymore. So,
right,
but I kind of latched on to from that story that you traded out fears, like the fear of speaking and being outside of your comfort zone was much bigger than whatever you were fearful of in your
physically.
physically in your professional athletic world.
Wow, yeah, that's. I think
There
you're
you
right on.
go. That's a
I
session
never even
right there,
thought of that.
buddy.
Wow, that's, yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense, and I never looked at it that way. But I think that's probably pretty right on.
So cool. Where do you want to go from here, Matt? We can go anywhere. We can talk more about racing. I want to talk. Well, yeah, where can we go? I'm asking you the questions. It's your show.
Oh, shoot. I don't know. I just think that it's I'm very grateful for my BMX life, my BMX family, my BMX career, because I mean it prepares you for anything,
Yeah.
and it really does. It really does. And I mean, it's definitely prepared me for the career I'm in now, because I'm going from, a ridiculous career, BMX racing, to an absurd career,
That's true.
acting.
That's true.
And yeah, so, but the only thing is, there's so many ups and downs, just like BMX racing. But, you know, in this industry, if you mess up, you don't break your arm. You just keep going
Right.
and get better. But it's definitely, I'm so grateful for, well, like I said, my BMX
Yeah.
career, because it's
And I think that's probably why we became closer after we finished racing, is my guess, because I feel
yeah,
like we've kind of chosen the same path to a certain degree. Obviously, you with acting and me with basically getting out in the world and speaking. I mean, we went from a highly competitive environment to a even highlier. That's terrible English, but honestly, a even more competitive environment. Basically, we went from one environment where our odds were just for easy math, 1% of succeeding at our level, to another environment where our odds are less than 1% of succeeding at in that space.
Absolutely.
So I think that's probably why we're kind of like always watching each other, which is cool,
Yeah, yeah.
and rooting each other on, and I like that. And I can't. And so, what do you think it was about the training, the lining up? And I don't think it was even the training, but what do you think it was about the lifestyle of racing professionally and lining up week in and week out on the gate with your nuts on the chopping block, as you say? Um,
Hmm.
what do you think serves you most? Like when you go into that audition, or even when you get the job or the callback, what is it like when you show up and you're like, okay, what is that preparation like? What is that? I guess I don't know where the question is, but I guess what served you most from your racing experience in this experience now, if you can quantify it.
Yeah, I guess just I've taken the athletic approach to this, this to the acting. I train hard. I'm in class. If I'm not at an audition or working, I'm in class. 4 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week, and I approach it. It's a gym. This is like a gym. This is going into a gym and squatting or doing whatever's on the list. So I approach it that way, and for me, I have to keep moving with it. I have to stay greased up. And it's a mental gym. It's a mental gym here. And you have to be able to, not necessarily go to places in your head, but just be able to relate to, to the scene or the story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy to do. Some days it is, some days it's not, but it's very elusive. It's simple, but it's very, very elusive. And it's just about, so for me, it's about the grind of it. And that's the thing. I enjoy the grind. I enjoyed the training for BMX racing and the competition. But the difference is acting. The whole thing's very subjective. It's very political, and BMX racing can be as well. But if you win the lap in a BMX race, you won the race.
True.
In this side of things, if you have a kick-ass audition, you felt great. It's very subjective. So somebody, it could be, you could not get the job because of what you look like, or obviously because of what you look like, or,
It's like the only
you
place where
know,
discrimination is legal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or, you did great. You got the look, but we've already cast the lead actress, and maybe you guys don't have the chemistry that we're looking for, or maybe you have too much chemistry. Maybe it could be 1,000 different things why you won't get the job, and that can be frustrating if you think about it too much. Whereas BMX racing, you win the lap, you win. Here, there's too many other things kind of rolling around that go with you or against you. So that's the beauty of it. All those things that I just mentioned could go against you, but all those things could go with you as well. Go
Mm-hmm.
for you as well. So
So
you
go ahead. Sorry.
now I'm just going to say, you got to do your work on, for an audition. You do your work, you go on there, you do your job, and then you forget about it, because when you're in the room, you have control of that, but you have no control whatsoever after that, because you could get it or not get it for 1,000 different reasons.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is. I write about that too. How in many things in life, it's a judgment call. Like at the end of the day, right? Somebody's making a decision, and I
Hmm.
guess that's why sports in general seem to appeal to so many people, even if they don't play or they're not necessarily interested. At least it's a clean way of explaining or showing some form of purity, right? Win,
Sure.
lose, lap times. You caught the ball, you didn't catch the ball. But in many things, it's a judgment call. I remember a lot of times, stupid stuff like being in the airport and thinking, and this is, when we would fly with our bikes in those big bags, and I got good at trying to pick the person to go to check me in who would not charge me for my bike.
Yeah.
Right? And the rule,
Yeah.
there was a rule saying charge for $45 one way for a bike. But it still came down to that person deciding if they're going to charge you or not. It's so
Absolutely.
right. And so here you are in a world where it's like, as hard as you work, as much as you train, um, it's going to come down to a someone else's decision. And that, even if that, and I'm not saying that it's just like a, it's arbitrary. I mean, they have their reasons, but it's going to come down
Sure.
to someone else's decision. So to me, that could wreak havoc on one's well-being. Right? Like your life,
Absolutely.
your livelihood is essentially in the hands of other people all the time, except for the fact, but I'm not hearing that from you. I'm still hearing you taking ownership of that. So you've talked about what doesn't get you the jobs. What do you think got you the jobs? And you've gotten some good ones, some big ones.
Yeah. That's a good question. I think just going in there and being authentic, not trying to, you have a lot of people going in there playing this whole, Hollywood attitude, whatever that is. And, it's all BS. But I think just going in there and being me, I have manners. I'm polite. I say, thank you, all this. I think I just being yourself, whatever that is, because at the end of the day, if you're hired on for, a movie, you're going to be working with these people for, months, weeks, months at a time. And not only do you have to do your job well, but you have to be, they don't want to have, somebody who they don't want to be around, because you're going to be, 12-hour days working together. So if you can do the job well, you fit the part, all that whole list is checked. And then, you're just somebody that they want to be around with, and
That's
that's happened where I've gone in there for a role, and I got the job, and then they know I can do the work. They know that I'm, a good person. I like to think myself as a good person. I'm genuine and authentic. And I've been hired just straight from that, not even have to go through the audition process with their next project, because like, Matt can do it. He's done the work. He's done a good job, and he's not an asshole. And he was fun to be around. So let's just bring him
rule
in.
number
Let's just,
one, people. Rule number one: don't be a jerk.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that seems to serve you. So, all right. So I that attitude of not being a jerk, that attitude of you know taking that, I guess, taking that competitive spirit into whatever else it happens. I feel that too, because I not only I'm on stage at a seminar, but I'll go to them as well. And usually I'm dragged to them, but I'll go to them, and I'm thinking, okay, who in this group of 200, who in this group of 1,000, who here's really making the final? Who's fitting through the funnel? Like,
Uh
um,
huh.
and I don't even try to, because I recognize intellectually that those people are there for their own reasons, their own interests, their own whatever. But I automatically go into that mode, that mindset of like, okay, I'm getting to the final.
Hmm.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
pop out. I'm top four. I'm top two. I'm top three.
Yeah.
And so I gotta think, because I've been to a couple of auditions. I've done a couple of print jobs, work ads. And by the way, if anyone can find any of that stuff, please send it to me, because I think it's super funny. Um, but I remember, just in that room, and people kind of got their head down. You're in a crappy chair. The script or whatever's in front of your face. Everyone's legs are stretched out, and there's kind of like this. It's like a awkwardy, silency kind of, people are talking. Maybe you might know the person if you've really kind of been, if you're on the circuit, but I don't know.
Hmm.
It's just kind of an interesting place where it's like that famous Michael Phelps scene from the Rio Olympics, where he was kind of getting ready, where they were getting ready for the race, and that one guy from, I don't know where he was kind of trying to taunt him, and
Oh yeah.
you can kind of see the mental games happening. So
Yeah.
so I appreciate the how we gamify things, and not just you and I, but just humans in general. So I have some questions here. And maybe we'll do it kind of lightning round. These are not, Matt. These are like your questions. Nor, because I have the gold medal mindset questions I want to ask you, but these are your questions, and they came to me specifically because they're you and because of what you do. So,
Okay.
what is your dream? And we'll try to do this lightning round. What's your dream role or character?
Dream role. Um, well, right now I'm still relatively early into this whole thing, so I'm kind of finding where I fit in. But I definitely like the detective, like the dramatic kind of thriller crime stories,
Okay.
um, something like that. So
All right.
yeah,
So that might have answered the next question, but villain or hero?
hero,
you're s- you're so
hero.
you're so Midwest and wholesome. It kills me.
Yeah, but
That's
I
cool.
mean,
That's cool.
yeah, hero. That's
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. Well, Denzel didn't get his nod until he played a villain, but just saying. All right.
Just saying, just throwing that out there.
Just throwing that out there. All right.
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie? And I'm sure that maybe it's changed, maybe it hasn't since like you're quote unquote in the business. Maybe you look at movies differently.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I would say The Shawshank Redemption. I mean, that's a
Andy
little,
Dupree. Andy Dupree. Get
yeah,
busy living and
yeah,
get busy dying. I love it.
exactly,
I love
exactly.
it.
That's yeah. Whenever it's on, no matter what, if I catch it on TV, I'm watching it. It's one of those things where it's just that's a great film, great story, and everything about it was pretty great, pretty brilliant. So,
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Delayed gratification for sure. There's there's a lesson in that for sure.
all
So
right.
who's who's your favorite actor?
My favorite actor would probably be Michael Shannon. A lot of people might not even know who he is.
Tell us.
I think the. Do you know who he is? Are
Um,
you familiar?
I feel like I know the name, but I'm sure I'll know the character or the work of.
Yeah, he was in Nocturnal Animals recently. I think that's his most recent film. I don't know if you saw that.
Okay, okay,
Um, yeah, yeah,
all right,
he's definitely one of those guys who. I mean, he's an actor. He is
nice.
a
He's like an
he's
actor.
yeah.
So my brother-in-law is an actor, Philip, and he was on the show. And he's actually he's a jazz trumpeter, I guess. But anyways,
Okay,
he's got a play, and it was just I don't know what it's called when they do a play and they like extend their shows because people want to
okay,
book them.
yeah,
But anyways, it's oh man, he's gonna kill me. Anyway, it's a play about Chet Baker. But it's so funny when I talk with Philip because I look at things from I'm the American public when it comes to movie watching. I appreciate great movies, but I'll say something like, "Oh, I like that actor." Da, da, and and my brother-in-law just like, "Ugh." He's like, he doesn't,
yeah,
he's not really, he just, then he gives like some technical reason as to why, his acting may not be, I don't know, as whatever. So it's pretty funny. So I like acting. I love asking people questions in the business about their business because you get these windows into the behind the scenes stuff, so it's pretty cool. So in the movie of
yeah.
you, Matt Pohlkamp, who would play
Uh huh.
you?
Um, I'd like to play myself.
I was gonna say with the caveat that you can play yourself at your age currently, but dude, someone's got to play you as the swimmer, as the BMX racer, and as the old man,
Oh,
so you can't be
oh boy.
you the whole way through. Come on.
Right. Let's see. So me, it's man, I don't know. That's
Yeah,
a good
you at
question.
20. Come on, you at
Me at
20.
20. Um, gosh, who are uh I don't know, man. Who would you think?
Not Seth Rogen.
Not Seth Rogen.
I'm just messing with you.
Ugh.
I don't know. I know it's crazy because I really think uh, you know who actually would probably I don't know his age, but who could probably play the BMXU? Not Hemsworth, but his brother, the younger
Ah,
one. I think he could probably pull you off like during your
that's
racing
funny.
years. Go
You said
ahead.
not Hemsworth, but the
But the other Hemsworth. Well, there's
yeah,
Chris
yeah, yeah,
Hemsworth, but his brother. His brother. I don't know the
yeah,
other
yeah.
guy's name. I know they're both Hemsworth.
Um, Chris and oh shoot, I can't remember his name either.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's a yeah.
yeah. So,
I,
anyways, so sorry, ladies. This is audio only. I just compared him to Chris Hemsworth. You probably like, they're like, damn, I wish I could watch it. So, anyway, All right. So who's the old you?
The old me. Let's go with Harrison. Like how old?
No, that's good. That's good. Older.
I was gonna say
You're because at
Harrison
four,
Ford.
right? Because if you're 40, I mean, they could make you up to be essentially older. I get that, but yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, like a legit, another person. So Harrison Ford,
yeah.
nice.
I'd say Harrison Ford. Looking at his career, I'd say him throughout.
All right.
Him and yeah. We'll go with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I like that. So I'm going through my list. I'm going through my list. I think we mostly covered everything, but I want to talk about one more thing and then we'll get into the actual questions that I normally ask. So when I work with
Okay.
athletes, when I do seminars, I talk about getting into character. And I like using movies and TV as an example, but I'll ask them, I'll say, what movie did you see? What's your favorite movie? And they'll say, for instance, Shawshank. You brought up Shawshank Redemption, and maybe Andy Dupree is a character, right?
Hmm.
And I was like, well, did that character, sleep, eat? Was that character laughing? Was that character sad? Was that character, so within that character, this character, within whoever that character was, he did all these things. He had all these range of emotions. He had all this. Yet you can define that character as what? Happy, persistent, motivated, professional, whatever the word is, right? And so then I kind of latch it onto them and I say, okay, so let's get into character. What's your character? And, the catch is your character is your best self. So, and that helps them essentially prepare for competition, prepare for the meeting, and so they can get into their best self. And then it becomes okay to be sad, angry, frustrated, hungry, full, whatever it is, because you are that character regardless of how you're feeling that day, which is hopefully the champion, the winner, the kick-ass presenter, whatever it is.
Hmm.
That's my mental ninja stuff for the day. But you literally have to get into character, right? And
Yeah.
that character may be nothing like who you are, even though you're adding who you are to it. Right? It is even from a surface standpoint, it is your face, your hands,
Yeah.
so what, right? So you got into character when you raced, which was the winner of the Monster Cross series, but
Hmm.
but what is that like getting in, like literally getting into character, like immersing yourself into this other person? I mean, and from a mentally like that standpoint, because to me, there's a lot of strength there and a lot of
Yeah.
compartmentalization. Just, it seems like a lot of work and energy. So what's that like?
I think for me, and I mean, you're gonna ask 10 actors the same question, you'll probably get 10 different answers. But
Yeah,
for
but I know
me,
you and you're enough.
yeah, yeah, I appreciate that.
Yay, man.
For me, I look at a story, or scene or whatever, it's something, there's something in there that I haven't done. This character, he's killed whatever, he's killed somebody, he's having an affair on his wife, whatever it is, and I can't, I don't have those specifics. Like I've never killed anybody,
Good.
or but so how am I going? And the main objective in acting, with air quotes, is not to act; it's to reveal the truth. You know what I mean? Without getting
Okay.
too
Nice. No, I
too
like that.
la di da.
Get la di da. No, that's going deep. I
Yeah,
appreciate
because
that.
if
That's game.
yeah, and some people can pull it off. Like Johnny Depp, he can pull off wild and crazy characters, but it's really hard to do without looking like you're acting. So for me, I'm more, and I cringe, and I do it myself. But when I see somebody, acting, it takes me out of the story, and it just kind of, I cringe, and I do that myself too sometimes. But so my goal is to, okay, this is a story of, my best or whatever. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so my best friend, I've never experienced that in my life. I've never experienced that specific, but I can relate to that. I don't know if you want to call it substitution because it's not really that, but I can relate to that loss. I can relate to having someone in my life and now they're not there anymore. Or however you want to outline it, but it's just about, and it takes time to do that. It takes time to relate. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I as Matt haven't lost a best friend from somebody shot him in the head, whatever.
Right.
But I'm gonna try to find something in my own life, in my own experiences. Maybe I'll watch. I'll do a little research on that particular thing just to kind of stir things up. But at the end of the day, it's still me. It's still me. You're calling me a different name on screen, but it's still me experiencing these things, and I want it to be as real as possible. So I have to relate to that somehow.
Yeah. No, I
And the tricky part is believing that and relating. I mean, to a point where it's real, like you're believing it, because if you believe it, if you're thinking it, if you're thinking something in your mind, and the camera, that your face is on that movie screen, and you're thinking something, it's going to come across. It should.
mm-hmm. No, it
Um,
does. It does.
but it
Yeah, keep going. I
but
love
it's
it.
when you see people like trying to sell the audience things, like trying, they're overly physical, and there is a time and place for that stuff as well. But the stuff I'm talking about, um,
It's almost like you're talking about
it,
that campiness. Like so this is another
yes,
exercise. This is another exercise I do with people is and this is actually so they learn their own body and they become better at just becoming more self-aware, but I have them watch TV or movies with the sound off because
hmm
if you can track that story well, one, it's a nod to how good those people are playing those roles, but two is you really become aware of the subtlety of sadness or happiness or especially those in between emotions. He's getting
yeah,
angry, she's getting upset, those little things. And it's so funny. You watch a show like well, whatever. I'll take the heat for it. You watch a show like Saved by the Bell, guilty pleasure, but you watch that show
hmm
with the sound off, the acting's terrible. you know, and
yeah. You don't know what the heck's going on.
but you can see him get coming out of character when they have no lines, and then popping back into character, and all that other stuff. And what do I know about acting? But you're right
No, well,
because
that's yeah.
but you can see it, and my kids watch a lot of Disney stuff, and I can see it there too, and so you can kind of until and they're kids playing a part. I mean, what do I know?
Yeah.
But you can tell what what I was talking about, that like when you were saying, excuse me, if something is running through your head or going through your mind, it's going to come across, and it does. So
Yeah, good and bad. So if there's a close
yeah,
up on your face, then you're like, what the heck is my next line?
that's going to come
The
across.
audience, the audience is going to see that. They're going to be like, oh
Right.
well, he's out. He's looking for his next
Hey,
line or something. Something's up.
that just brought another question to me. So I know you've done TV. I know you've done movies. Your latest was what, like an LMN, was a like what's that Lifetime movie
Oh yeah, yeah,
network?
yeah,
You forgot
yeah.
about it.
Lifetime. They've been running that thing a lot. I think it's on again on Sunday
What
night.
is
I
it?
think
What's it called?
it's called,
Something nanny, something
yeah, evil nanny.
evil nanny, and you're obviously not the nanny.
Right.
Um,
I'm the manny.
you're the manny, but you're
Yeah.
you have a big role in that. Um,
Yeah.
anyways, I don't even know what I was. Oh, so my question was, uh, have you done stage stuff? Are you
I
interested in
have.
stage stuff?
I haven't, and pretty much like in the class that I go to, I mean, we're on stage doing these scenes,
Yep.
but again, it's the gym. We're working out.
Right.
We're not off book. We have the scripts in front of us, and it's we're working out.
Mm-hmm.
And but I tell you what, and again, this is something that I'm working on. It scares me getting on stage, and um, that's something that I would have. It's like the public speaking thing. But
Right.
I'm
Right.
sure I've never done it, but I think once I did it, got my feet wet doing it, I'd be fine. But I don't really have an interest in that right now,
Right.
um, because it is a huge commitment. If you do a play, they're usually long,
Yes, they
and you
are.
can't that, and that's all you have to do as far as like the run of them. They could be a couple months, and it's a big commitment to do that. Because
Yeah.
you're not able to go out for other work. So
No.
I'm more focused on film right now, but I'm definitely not ruling out, doing a play, because I think that's a great exercise as well. it's a little. Some people say it's easier to do plays because you're starting from the beginning and you go
Hmm.
all the way to the end, right?
Okay.
But in film and TV, so the first day
You
of
yeah, you
shooting,
could film you could film your death scene right off the bat because that made the
oh
most
yeah,
sense production wise.
yeah, you might have that location. That location's only available for this day, and that's the last scene of
Right.
the movie of 90 scenes. So we gotta shoot the very last scene today, and you got to make so the continuity is kind of out of whack. It can be out of whack depending on what you're doing. So that's a challenge in itself too. So I'm shooting the last scene of the movie on the first day of shooting. It's like, okay, I gotta I gotta put myself. I gotta find where I am throughout this whole movie. What leads up to this moment. It has to be in that last scene because in order for it to make sense when you watch it, the continuity has to be there. And it can be that can be a challenging too. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, yeah. You're like trying to find your basis for the character in the first day he
So
dies. And then you
yeah,
got
so
yeah.
yeah, it's amazing that movies, they even make sense, a lot of them, because there's so much that can go wrong and so much, they're so complicated that when a movie actually makes sense, it's like kind of a big deal, you know.
Yeah, I could see
So
that. I could see that. I mean, I think everybody is hard on movies, and you heard me just talk about how bad Saved by the Bell was, but I watched it. But it is amazing. Even a I would say a not so critically acclaimed, um, and I'm being very polite, critically acclaimed production. To make that happen, there's so many moving parts and pieces and people involved.
oh yeah,
It actually is its own. It's its own success that it even to got to the TV guide or got to the screen in the first place as a finished product.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
that. That's
if people are seeing it, if there's eyes on it, then it's a success, no matter how crappy it may be. If it, I mean, if it's out there and people are watching it or able to see it in some way, then it's a success, and people are stoked at that point.
any plans to write or do anything like that?
Yeah, actually, I have a writer buddy who actually pretty successful. He's kind of he wrote a film a couple years ago called Heist, and
Okay.
De Niro's in it, and
Yep.
actually,
Yep.
speaking of Saved by the Bell, Mark Paul Gosselaar's in it as well. It's kind of funny, but yeah. So I kind of pick his brain every now and then because he's an actor and director and writer. Actually, worked with him in Louisiana right after the Grands in a
Hmm.
film down there. But anyway, so I have been, and it's kind of like there's a lot of BMX in it. It's kind of like my loosely based off of my experiences growing up and competing and the ups and downs of that and
Nice.
transitions in life. So it's something that I'm working on here and there, but it's actually I haven't really worked on it in quite some time, but it's definitely something that I enjoy, and it's good. That's good therapy too, just to
I,
get stuff out of your head and on paper.
I bet. I bet. I know. Actually, I
Yeah.
know. So, all right. This is the question, and we're running out of time, but that's good, dude, because that means the conversation went fast and it was a good one. So, what is? And I ask this to everybody. This is kind of the golden question. What's one thing you wish every human being knew?
About.
What's one thing you wish
Hmm.
every
Okay.
human being knew? So, right, because I want people to leave with a gold nugget, right? You this is not your first rodeo. You've lived a blessed life, a successful life, and a hardworking life. So
Absolutely.
there's
Yeah.
effort. So you have a lot to offer, um, and you have insight. So yeah, what's one thing you wish everyone knew? And I've gotten some pretty darn good answers. One of my favorite ones was that you have everything you need right now to be everything you want to be. That was like one of the best answers I've ever heard. But yeah, what's one thing you wish every human being knew?
Without getting too cliche, I think that, I mean, just you really have, if there's something that you want to do, you have to go for it. If it's something like, as far as my story, I feel like I'm living a completely different life than I did like my whole BMX life. I was in Ohio, and now I'm in LA and I'm acting, and doing well. And I guess just jump. If it's something you want to do, go for it. Life's too short. We're all going to be dead soon anyway, relatively. So if
Right.
it's something, without being irresponsible, if there's something that you want to do, go for it, because, you don't want to have it. This is really cliche. I'm sorry,
It's
but
not. No, it's not
it's so
because
true.
it is true. But
I,
the funny thing is, people don't. Not everyone like truly knows that or truly accepts that on a cellular level. So cliche or not, I mean, if it's true, it's allowed,
yeah.
right? Like
Yeah. So
that's not a throwaway at all. Not at all.
yeah, I'd say just if there's something that you want to do and you've been, it's on your mind, you think about it, and something like you really want to do whatever it takes to, within reason, be responsible, roll the dice, jump and the net will appear. Here we go. Um, and just because that's exactly what I'm doing. And I've never been happier in my life right now. And it's because, I jumped, I went for it. That's it. Yeah.
Nice. Well, and your BMX racing career prepared you for the jumps, literally.
For sure. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
all right.
Nice.
So this is the part where you get to tell people how they can find you, see you, notify you if they so
Yeah.
choose to.
I mean, Instagram and Facebook. And Facebook, Matt Pohlkamp, and then Instagram at Matt Pohlkamp.
Well, that's pretty darn easy.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
So
So
that's MATTPOHLKAMP, correct?
correct.
Boom. Well, with that said, Matt Pohlkamp, thank you very much for being on the Gold Medal Mindset. I will see you
Absolutely. Thank you.
probably on the gate somewhere.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking the time to mine for gold on the Gold Medal Mindset podcast. Let's keep the conversation going on Twitter at RealDrJRich or on the web at drjasonrichardson.com. That's drjasonrichardson.com. Take care and have a great day. Gold Medal Mindset is brought to you courtesy of IPD Seminars, motivating the motivated with a 6-hour intensive training from leaders in business, sport, and life. Make an impact, live with purpose, and fulfill your destiny. Learn the mindset and best practices to crush any limit. Visit IPDseminars.com for more information.